and welcome to round 2 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast. I'm Catherine Aleko, and I'm here with Terri Morrow. Say hi, Terri.
Hi there.
Usually on this podcast, we talk about parenting issues, but once a week, Terri and I like to get together to discuss TV, movies, books, and other entertainment topics because it's nice to talk about something other than parenting for a change. And Happy New Year. This is our first round 2 of the new year. And if you missed our most recent group chat, Parenting Roundabout, Terri and I did do some round 2 material over there, talking about our what we're looking forward to in pop culture in 2017.
Yes.
So
check it out.
Check that out. But for this week, I'm going to tell you about a few books I caught up on during the holiday break, and we'll continue listening to The West Wing, although we didn't watch an episode of The West Wing show this week, but we listened to the podcast, if that makes sense. But before that, there have been 2 new episodes of the Great American Baking Show since we last chatted. There was Chocolate Week, and then it was immediately followed in the same evening by Custard and Meringue Week.
And then did you notice at the end of Custard and Meringue Week, the coming attractions were for Custard and Meringue
Custard
Week?
And Meringue Week, we did notice that.
This is being put together by somebody really low on the food chain at ABC, I think. It's like they must have
You never know what's coming, what's happening. Yeah.
They must have just made these episodes. Then somebody said, oh man, we got to put them on somewhere. Okay, I'll put them on 2 on 1 week, and then another 1 on 1 week, and 1 on 1 week, and then 2 more, and then none
and
the
then
next week.
Skip a week because it's Christmas vacation, and people will just have to follow along.
I still would like to know what the original plan was, because they had 2 people just drop out, and they had 1 bye week, but they haven't had another bye week. So they have 1 fewer person at this stage than they planned to, presumably, and yet there's no mention or allowance being made for that.
No, they just carry on.
It's very bizarre. It's like this whole thing. Now, I understand that people who've watched the Great British Baking Show more than I have, which is 1 episode, have a greater understanding of just sort of the way this thing is done. So maybe it's just ignorance of the format to me. But I really would have liked at some point the ground rules to be laid out.
Yes.
How is this going to work? At what stage are we getting, suddenly we're at the quarterfinals because we have 4 people left, but you would have had 5 people left. How would that have worked? Would you have had an extra show? Did they do 1 fewer episode when people started dropping out? What sort of time frame did they film this over?
Right.
Certainly not in real time. Certainly they didn't have people sitting around for a week doing nothing, waiting, or going home, apparently. So they must have just done this over the space of however many days there are.
Which is exhausting when you think about it. I mean, each, what they call a week's episode, say Chocolate Week or whatever, is 3 challenges, which seem to be done on different days.
Yeah.
Or maybe they do 2 on one day and 1 on the next day in real life. So, yeah, if they're really just staying there and turning up at that tent day after day.
The baking death march.
Slave labor in there.
That's why the people who have to go home never look really all that upset. It's thank
God,
I'm done.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just I would have liked to have somebody sit down at the beginning and explain this is what we're going to do. But maybe they didn't know. I don't know. Or...
They're just making it up as they go.
It's very odd, and it makes... there were so few people these 2 episodes. It's like, all of a sudden, they're just hardly anybody. They kept whenever they did the thing where each one brought up their thing, and I was waiting for the next one, and then I realized, oh, wait, no, that's everybody.
That's it. They're all here.
Man, and now how many more episodes do they have? It was supposed to be 8 altogether, right?
I don't even know.
How many?
There's only 3 people left now.
3 people, or some of them are they going to have 2-week finals or a 2-hour final? It just seems all very haphazardly, not done necessarily, but presented. It's presented in a slapdash fashion. Each episode in itself is very nice and very lovely, but it seems like not a lot of thought was given as to how they were put out there.
Yeah.
So I did very much enjoy the 2 episodes. And I was sad to see Prachi go, but I enjoyed her. Her, she was just having such a bad day, and she kept sharing this, oh shoot. She was very sweet, lovely. And I loved it when Amanda and Jeremiah came over and helped her with her little molten cakes, dump them out. That seems like they have a camaraderie amongst them all,
right?
That you wouldn't necessarily see on more cutthroat competition shows. I liked that. They all seemed to be asking each other for advice, and it makes it a lot more fun when you feel like everybody's kind of rooting for each other.
Yeah.
Even though they do keep giving poor Amanda the stink eye edit, and she must be the only one who's giving any facial expressiveness at all.
Any sort of material that they can work with.
Come on, sneer a little. Come on, you can do it. Roll your eyes. Come on.
Right. Come on.
The meringue challenges were just weird and generally not delicious looking. They didn't look appealing. I did not think I would want to eat that on neige. Even the perfect one, I would not want to eat. Even the perfect one, I was like, I don't think so. Yeah. I mean, I do like a creme brulee, but yes. Yes, and the one I think I'll pass. Thing at the end that was supposed to be marshmallowy on the outside and then firm on the edge. What were those? Pavlovas or something like that? It just looked like stickiness to me. It would stick to my teeth in an unpleasant way, whether it was marshmallowy or whether it was just sugar and egg whites. Mm-hmm. So that was not really appealing. The chocolate stuff looked good, but man, making truffles, right? Not easy. Seems like kind of a hard challenge. Someone who is a baker would not naturally. I guess it's all the same thing, right? It's a pastry chef thing. But yeah, but you're right. I mean, especially as a home baker, you might specialize in breads or cookies or cakes or pies. All of those seem to have a little more in common than a truffle. And they kept saying, well, we wouldn't expect a home baker to know how to do this. Then why do you give them these challenges? What the heck? Because, how hard can we make things? That's what makes it more maybe in the finals, I guess. But I don't know. It seems a little mean. And they said that Prachi hadn't been a baker that long. Where did they find? Should these people? This probably shouldn't be somebody who's just started baking on this show. Even though she did fine. She did made it to the whatever level that was, the fivals. The fivals. So that's another thing I'm not clear of is how exactly these people got into this thing. And now I'm worrying about Amanda's year-old baby at home while she's off baking in a tent for an unspecified period of time. Right. It's just, it's odd to me. But I don't really like the edit they're giving her of stay-at-home mom seeks meaning through baking competition show. Yeah, she is really, I feel bad because she's liked our tweets every now and then, so we should be rooting for her. But they're giving her a not very flattering edit. Yeah. And poor Jeremiah, who was the star all the way through and was so proud that he had won half the technical challenges. What good did it get you, man? Nothing Don't make something with leaves sticking out of it. That looked so incredibly unappealing, whatever he was making with the lime leaves. Yes. Ew. Kaffir lime leaves. Too ambitious, man. Over and over again. My mom made cookies, I think it was cookies, over Christmas, and she keeps a bay leaf in her flour, to keep bugs out of the flour. Okay. You stick a whole bay leaf down in it, and it got into the batter. Oh no! and so then it not only did it get in the batter, but it got chopped up in little pieces, so then she was having to pick little bits of bay leaf out of her cookie dough. So that could happen. Yes, that could be a source of drama on a show like this. I've had clumps of old flour and sugar do that in a batter. I had to pick them out. Mm-hmm. But yes, that sounds like the sort of thing that would happen. At least those are supposed to be in there. Yeah. Yeah.
You just have to break them up.
They just seem to keep having trouble, all those bakers, which was kind of, made it real, like something that could happen to me. See, they're not so great. Their cakes are collapsing. Their meringues are pulling away from the sides. Their custard is too thin. They're not so great. But then why am I watching them? So I really still think I would like to watch them just bake well, bake successfully, make delicious looking things. But what do I know?
Which I feel like they did more at the beginning.
Yes, they just seem to they have to keep upping the degree of difficulty.
Right.
But possibly a little too much. And then the bakers amongst themselves feel like they have to keep doing things that are more special and unusual and weird. And champagne bubbles in gelatin in oil and stuff like that.
Yes. I have had like champagne gel, like basically, the Jell-O jigglers, but made with champagne.
Yeah.
That's good.
But they were like little individual gelatin bubbles.
Yes.
That looked like. Now, how does somebody just pick that up?
Yeah.
Gee, after I make my snickerdoodles today, I'm going to make jelly champagne bubbles.
Right.
All right, well.
Could happen.
Could happen. You never know. So I'm still putting my money on Stephanie. I think she's doing exactly what I thought she would, is just kind of slow and steady, never winning any of the big awards, just kind of keeping on. And at the end, she'll do something spectacular and win. Because apparently all you have to do is have one good day.
Right, and just as long as you have it on the right day.
Exactly, one good challenge. It's like, well, forget all that stuff that happened before. It's all on this one thing. Good luck. Right. So we'll see.
Every week I'm like, what do they have left to do? Like they did pie, they did cake, they did cookies, they did bread, and they have to, so I don't know what's left for them to do.
They'll come up with something outlandish.
Ice cream or something.
Oh, that could be.
Which would be a whole different thing. But there would be lots of opportunities for dramatic billowing of dry ice or something.
Have they done like cream puffs and eclairs and that sort of thing? Seems like they might have. They did pastry somewhere back there, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
There haven't really been that many weeks, but it seems like they've done a ridiculous number of things and are way, way above what should be appropriate for a home baker.
Right. So that's the baking show. And whenever we have another episode, who knows? Maybe by next week, the whole thing will be over.
That's true.
We have no idea.
There is just no rhyme or reason.
We're banking on there being at least one more week that we will discuss next time on round 2.
Yes.
So now we're going to move on to books. I've read 2
Hey, look
books.
at you.
2.
Wow.
I'm
impressed.
Yes. Well, the month of December is an off month for our book club. We do not have a book. We have a book exchange party, which I missed because of luge camp.
Boo. So, well, that's a whole other topic, but we'll have to talk about luge camp on the group chat.
Yes. So, but while I was in Lake Placid for luge camp, I was wandering around in a bookstore and saw a book that looked interesting. And so I picked it up and ended up reading it while I was there, ignoring the large pile of newspaper that I had dragged with me halfway across the country and dragged back. But this book was called The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton, a novel which came out in 2014. And I just, it was one of those ones where it just kind of caught my eye on the shelf. And it is historical fiction. It was set in the late 1600s in Amsterdam. So it had a lot of that historic detail that I usually enjoy reading about. And it was the story of a young woman from the country who marries this older merchant from the city. And so she moves into the city and she marries him, and then she doesn't show up until a few weeks later. And when she does, he's not there. And she gets introduced into this household where it seems she's not really wanted. And it just goes on from there. And there is an awful lot of drama and sort of big, shocking secrets kind of things. And I felt like it could have done with maybe one fewer of those. I mean, the illegitimate child, the interracial romance, the homosexual romance, like all of these things were happening, and it was like one too many. And the title refers to, at one point, the husband buys her a gift, and it's basically a dollhouse. It's like a cabinet that contains a miniature model of the house that they're living in. And at first she's like, what are you doing? Like, this is just weird, and I'm not a kid. And even though she's like 17, but she doesn't understand it. But then she decides that, well, I have nothing else to do, so I'll get some little furniture made for it. Yeah. And so begins this kind of fantastical, somewhat perhaps magical relationship with a person who makes the miniature things.
A lot going on there.
It is a lot. And it's, is this person the one who's making the miniature things? Is she somehow spying on them? Is she able to predict the future? Is she like a ghost? And the thing that was not satisfying about the book was that it almost dropped that thread because of everything else that was going on. I was kind of left hanging about that character and the role that she played in the story, and who she was and why she was there, and whether she was even real. Like, it was unsatisfying, I found.
And yet the title of the book would suggest that is a central figure, right?
Right. And I mean, no question that it was an important figure, and made, but this sort of mystical angle to it was not fully developed, I guess. So that made it challenging.
Yeah.
But it was a page turner. I wanted to know what was going to happen. I kept going,
and that's what you want while you're sitting around luge camp is a page turner.
Exactly. And then I followed that up with a book that just came out this year in 2016. It's called Eligible, and the subtitle is A Modern Retelling of Pride and Prejudice.
Oh my.
By Curtis Sittenfeld, who is a well-known author. She wrote Prep and a couple other things, which I'm now forgetting the names of. And it was really good. I liked it a lot. Yes, it was a lot of fun, and it had all the Bennett sisters, and it had Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy, but it was all taking place in the present day. Okay. And she really did a good job.
Has that not been done before?
I'm sure it has, but like the movie Clueless was.
Yeah, that was
from Emma.
No, Emma.
Yes. Emma. So yeah, it probably has, but she did a really great job. Good. With the mother, who's like just kind of slightly racist and bigoted.
Just a little bit racist.
And everybody's a little bit racist. And her whole focus is marrying off her children, and on and on. So it was another one that I just wanted to keep going and going and going to find out what was going to happen and how she was going, because I'm like, well, I know that the one sister ends up with Mr. Bingley and the other sister ends up with Mr. Darcy, and there's going to be problems along the way, and how is she going to resolve those problems? So it was quite a lot of fun. I enjoyed that.
Well, that does sound like a fun thing to read.
Yeah.
Although I maybe object to the whole premise, but other than that, it would be fun.
If you can get past that.
I would like to read books. I have books sitting around to read. I have a book somebody gave me last Christmas that I have not read yet. But
well, and for Christmas I did get the Hamilton. So
yay!
I've been dipping into that
little by little.
So that's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. One of these days, we'll be making New Year's resolutions, I think, on an upcoming episode. Maybe that will once again be one of my New Year's resolutions, though I think it was last year and it came to a screeching halt.
To read more?
Yes, to read really at all.
To read at all.
I have read dozens of books this year. They've just been books I was copy editing. So I don't know if that counts or not.
I'm thinking no.
It's a lot of words in and a lot of words out.
Fun things that you enjoyed reading anyway.
There have I'd say there have been maybe 5 or 6 that I've really enjoyed reading.
Oh, that's good.
And those are fun. And the rest...
That's always nice to get paid to read, then.
That's right. And then some that were inoffensive and some that were awful. But...
Yes. Well, so let's move on then to our last topic is The West Wing. Usually we watch an episode of The West Wing TV show and we listen to an episode of The West Wing Weekly podcast. Yes. But this past time around, they did not watch an episode. They instead did a big block of cheese show where they had people send in questions and they answered them. Yes. So it was not the usual format, but I found it interesting. It was a nice range of questions from things like fantasy recasting the show all the way to exactly how does this work? Like when do you record? And I was interested to hear that they had an editor and an audio engineer.
When they were describing their process, I was like, wow, we're really amateurs. Man, if that's how it's done at the pro level.
Right.
We apologize, listeners. We have no such convoluted process.
Well, I was like, they have an editor. Like, how do we get that job for some other big podcast?
I would take that. Yes, not an audio editor, but somebody to listen to it and go, you might want to take that out.
I think you should cut that. Because we would both be good at that.
Our podcast would be like 5 minutes long. Really, this is all one big digression. Perhaps you want to just record again.
Why don't you just scrap it and store it?
I mean, I do try to remove all our sniffles and long breaths and repetitive uhs, but that's about all the editing we get. And really, it's only if I'm in the mood and have the time. And
you could, in the Hamilton mixtape, they play that for comedy on the Jimmy Fallon song that he sings, complete with huge gasps of breath.
Speaking of things that could have used an editor, but
yes,
that particular number, not the whole mixtape. But
right, yeah, there were a few of them. But in general, the mixtape.
I have no complaints about the mixtape.
Right.
But yeah, that was pretty impressive to hear what all they did. And they still get one out a week. Wow. Awesome.
And sometimes they even go to a studio.
Yes, we do not do that.
But we share with Joshua and Lena, or at least I do, the basic lack of preparation.
Yes.
Like, we think of a topic, and then I typically just, say whatever comes out of my mouth. I don't have a lot of advanced prep or notes.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much on record as being completely disorganized. So it's part of our charm, right?
Exactly.
It's spontaneous. It's just like sitting down and having a conversation with us.
And who wouldn't want to do that?
That's right. Nobody. Everybody.
So you should come back next week when we will cover the baking show, but not the West Wing, since they are taking a week off. Although I should say in between, I believe. So you'll hear this one that you're listening to right this second. And then the Golden Globes are happening.
Oh, yes. And we will talk about that then. So we
will try to live tweet them.
Yes.
And then talk about them on the following
what we can talk about next
show.
Week. When is it? It's next...
I believe it's next Sunday, January 8th or whatever day that is. Yeah, January 8th.
Okay. Hosted by Jimmy Fallon, right?
Aforementioned.
And
Jimmy
featuring a whole bunch of movies I have not seen. So,
well, but we
Go
will
Moana.
comment on them nonetheless.
That's my horse in this race.
We will discuss them nonetheless in the live tweet and on this show.
Yes.
So that's going to be it for round 2 today. Please subscribe to our Parenting Roundabout podcast so you won't miss any of our episodes, including our daily speed rounds and weekly group chats. As always, you can find recaps, links, and an opportunity to comment on our website at parentingroundabout.com. Goodbye, Terri.
Goodbye, Catherine.
Bye, everyone.